Good morning. I'm Kevin here with another Tierra Nueva devotional. And today I wanted to look at "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Um, this is Matthew chapter 5, verse 5, in the Beatitudes, which is the most important sermon that has ever been preached. It comes from the Sermon on the Mount. I'm going to read through the Beatitudes real quick, and then I'm going to come back to that one particular verse because it kind of just encapsulates the whole virtue. So in this, I'm reading Matthew 5, verses 1 through 12. Seeing the crowds, he went up on the mountain, and when he sat down, his disciples came to him. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for they persecuted the prophets who were before you." So I want to talk about Meek. I want to talk about Meek in current context and how we view meekness. But I want to spin it and look at it from a biblical standpoint. So, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And so when you say that, the first thing that pops into my head is I think about the quiet guy in the corner with the glasses reading the book, very studious, very non-assuming, non-threatening. Somebody that you just passively walk by and just passively floats through life, right? But that's not it. That's not what meekness is. Sure, that's what we might perceive as meek in a current context in the United States, in the northwest corner of Washington in the Skagit Valley. You know, we see a quiet, unthreatening looking person, and we're just like, man, that person's meek. But that's not it. You know, the Beatitudes are a list of virtues that us as followers of Jesus are supposed to understand and hold ourselves to. So in meekness, meek is an attribute of human nature and behavior. Oh, wait. So meekness is a behavior and not the way that a person looks? Okay, hold on. It has been defined several ways. Righteous. Ooh, righteous. It's kind of, I find that word dirty sometimes. Because when I hear righteous, I automatically go to self-righteous and self, right? Humble. That is an attribute and a behavior. We can act humbly, we can walk humbly, we can commune humbly with God. Teachable. What is it to be teachable? So you're telling me that in order to be teachable, I have to be meek? That I'm okay with that, you know? Or to understand teachings means to also understand that I don't have all of the answers. Wait, then that goes back to humility, right? Crazy. And patient under suffering. You know, before the world and our nation caught on fire, we were in the middle of a pandemic. Probably the craziest global pandemic in history. We were on stay-at-home orders, and people were suffering. Not only were the sick suffering, but the people who weren't sick, that were just trying to keep others healthy, they were suffering as well. And it was long suffering. Willing to follow gospel teachings, an attribute of a true disciple. So wait a minute. To be meek and humble is an attribute of a true disciple of Jesus? That's kind of crazy. So meekness has been contrasted with humility, as referring to behavior towards others. So if I'm treating people with kindness, dignity, respect, if I'm standing up for injustice, um, if I'm advocating for other people and I'm doing it with a humble heart, it means I'm meek. Um, Meekness meaning to restrain one's own power so as to allow room for others. You don't see a lot of that in the world today. You see a lot of people asserting their own power, their own, uh, you know, just looking out for oneself, not really caring about the ones who are coming up behind them, but only trying to make way for themselves. It's not an attribute of a disciple of Christ. That's not an attribute of a follower of Christ. So believe it or not, with the movement that I see happening in the world today, in the Black Lives Matter movement, the pushing forth to combat injustices, systemic racism, structural racism, all of that stuff, people willing to put themselves on the line for the benefit of others, it's a whole new world of meekness right there. People doing it with a humble heart, quietly and carefully and painfully directly articulating meaning to try to help better educate people. But the meekness comes in is when you are willing to be educated yourself. So yeah, meekness. When you hear the term in the way that our society is built, you automatically think that meekness is a sign of weakness. But that's not just it. That's not it at all. If you look all the way back at Numbers, chapter 12, verse 3, now the man Moses was very meek, more than all the people who were on the face of the earth. Wait, Moses was a leader. He went to Pharaoh and talked about the injustices that were happening in the world to his people, freed the captives, took them out into the desert. Oh, wait. He took a bunch of meek people out into a land that wasn't on a walk where the promised land was promised to them. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. So I think we can all draw our own conclusions there and see the parallels between Moses and him freeing the captives out into the desert, and blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth, because eventually Israel did inherit the promised land. Right now I'm looking for a world of equality for my brothers and sisters of color. That's where my meekness is. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. I pray that my brothers and sisters of color inherit a meek world full of equality and humility and compassion and love. I hope I articulated that well. I hope that you understand the whole meaning behind it. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessings, my friends.